So yeah, Alan Wake's DLC and American Nightmare, Serious Highs and Serious Lows by Bricky. Listen, you all saw my list of every single game I played in 2023 ranked. I will not take American Nightmare slander. Alan Wake's American Nightmare was not that bad. It was seriously, like, in certain regards, it was better than original Alan Wake. If Bricky goes hard on it, I will have no mercy. I will fire all cannons aimed directly at him, and it will be nuclear, even though I love Bricky. He has such a good beard, man. Look at it. It's so full, and it's so, like, trimmed perfectly. He's such a handsome man, but I will not hold back if he goes hard, if he is too harsh on American Nightmare, okay? It's like a $1 game, man. It's good. I'm gonna have a nervous breakdown before I even hear what he has to say. So let's get into this video and see how bad it will be. I know it will be bad, for sure. I do wonder what he has to say about Alan Wake's one DLCs, because one of them was really fucking weak, and the second one had some really cool moments.
New year is here, and that means new goals, new fitness goals, new diet goals, and there is no better place to get started on that than with this video sponsor, Factor.
Pro tip to anybody watching, and this is, I am 100% serious, never make New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions are very shit ideas, because the beginning of the year is not a good time to start introducing changes, because the beginning of the year is universally a time where a lot of things happen. Do not start introducing changes to your lifestyle at the beginning of a year. They will not stick. They will just go away after a couple of weeks. So don't make New Year's resolutions. Just do it in the middle of a year. I think around summer is the best, usually with a lot of free time, especially if you're in school, you have so much free time. You should start introducing changes into your life, like starting fitness or whatever, during summer, and then just stick to it. And not make it a new year resolution where you can go, oh, I kinda did it. I went to a gym a couple of times. That's my New Year's resolution fulfilled. You need to do fitness for so long, and you have to do it a long time. Not a lot in a short time. You need to do it at least sporadically across a long time to really see the difference. Like weight loss or muscle gain, those things don't happen overnight. A lot of people who do New Year's resolutions expect results within a couple of weeks, and then it goes to shit. So please consider these words. Those are real words from the bottom of my heart. I tried doing New Year's resolutions. They always suck. It's way better to do them to introduce changes into your life later in the year.
Factor is the best meal prep service on the market right now. When it comes to food, they always say there's three things: price, speed, and quality. They say you can only have two of the three, but I think Factor comes as close as possible to getting all three of those boxes checked. Whether it's calorie smart, high protein, chef's choice, keto, doesn't matter. They have an option for you. It's low waste, tastes delicious, and is ready in just a couple of minutes. So go ahead and get started on your brand new goals by going to factor75.com and use code Bricky50 for 50% off your first order. Link is in the description. Factor75.com, code Bricky50 for 50% off your first order. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, and let's talk Alan Wake, Sam Lake, and Cauldron Lake.
Here, take the Bricky.
Hi everybody, we're trying a new microphone. This is my streaming mic. I really like it. I think it's great. So Hopefully you like it too. This video is a sequel to my prior video on Alan Wake 1. You will need that for this, so quick homework for you to do first. It's linked in the description and the cards above. So a few of you who are already familiar with the Remedy verse have expressed surprise that I did not include the Alan Wake DLC special episodes in the original video. The reason for this was, one, the video was
would be too long.
already an hour long, and two, I thought we could do all of the post-original game content in one video, combining the special episodes and Alan Wake's American Nightmare into one video. After completing the very good specials of the base game, I thought
this is criminal that American Nightmare only gets 12 minutes. This is criminal.
I had made a mistake and probably should have included them in the original video. After finishing the reanimated abortion that is American Nightmare, I realized I did not make a mistake because I needed something else to pad this video, because if I spoke only on American Nightmare, the video would be 5 minutes long and most of it would be me sobbing. So enjoy today's double feature. Much like episode 4 in the base game, we are about to experience some high highs and some very low lows. Don't do it to me, Bricky.
I am serious.
Our first DLC episode has Alan waking up in a sort of messed up version of Bright Falls Diner.
Welcome to the...
It's like you're replaying the game again, but it's gone through the filter of James Somerton. The diner is weird, the people are acting weird, and everything just seems wrong. But in a similar way to our original game, we have God to help us out.
Alan, I'm a little horny.
Shit, wrong clip. Wrong clip!
Alan, listen to me. Go no deeper.
Oh, here it comes. Let's go!
Be careful. I will try to find a better point of contact.
Thanks, God. The intro in this sequence mainly contains the same gameplay you're already very used to, but there's no setup of any kind. This DLC is not something that is standalone. No, this is a direct sequel to Alan Wake's base game. So the combat is immediately as hard as the end of the base game. So the enemies you fight are in full strength, and they do pose quite a threat with the game's so-so combat. The objective here is not too tough to figure out, but it is leaving quite a few questions. Alan has written some manuscript, but it's strange and jumbled, and Thomas Zane is trying to stop him from sinking deeper. What makes a lot of these segments rather interesting is this live action version of Alan on the TVs yelling all kinds of horrifying things at him.
The town itself turned against Wake. Cars flew toward him.
The whole opening section of this episode is pretty dull. You don't know what's going on besides Zane leading you places, and it's all combat, and it's all difficult combat because it's endgame combat. There has been a pretty interesting and fun mechanic they've added, though, that I sorely wish was explored more in the base game. I've harped on...
Oh, I forgot this is DLC exclusive. No, it also appeared at the very end of the story of base game, but yeah, they used it like way better in this one.
Why I think Alan Wake's combat has the intrigue of beans on toast. British stay losing, but they were able to expand on it with the floating word system in this DLC. Basically, shining your light on the floating words will have it spawn whatever it says it will. This can be ammo, a way to continue your progress, or in some sequences, specific things to kill enemies. There's an underground zone full of furnaces that all say blast on them. So if you shine your light, they explode and kill all the enemies there. It's a really neat idea. That's
really
like
cool.
Chili on toast. It's a real meal. They use this multiple times throughout this little DLC episode, and they are genuinely really cool. Shine a light on boom, and it makes things explode. You have fireworks to light up enemies, and they even put enemies as words.
Ow, come on.
I really love this section. It's a bunch of explosions and the words enemy, so you need to look up at the sky and you barely see what's coming like in front of you. That's such a fun way to play around with ideas of Alan Wake. Really wish they did more things like that in the base game.
As words.
Ow, come on. You gotta be careful. Those are bad words.
So you have to fight the Taken while not shining your light on the words that would then spawn more Taken. It's super cool. I genuinely think this adds a great gameplay dynamic.
And this also makes a very specific thing more relevant. When you can use your flares and flashbangs becomes a very important strategic choice. In base game, it's brain dead. You're surrounded, flare, flashbang. In this one though, there might be a very bad ward around, like a very strong Taken will spawn if you use a fucking flare. So you are like, do I take the hit or do I risk the flare and risk that ward will come into existence? Because the flare also will shine a light on it.
Especially because you're metaphorically writing them into existence, because that's what Cauldron Lake does. If this shit was in the base game more, I probably wouldn't have complained so much. But gameplay in my Alan Wake game? Come on, you and I both know who we're here for.
Yowza!
Barry,
Hey, bestseller! Looking good!
you're not real.
Well, no shit. What gave me away? What, the see-through thing? I'm a figment of your imagination, just like pretty much everything else you see here. Maybe even you.
That's insane.
Yeah, you're right. Everything that happened before made perfect sense, but this is insane. Good catch, Al.
Thank you, Barry. You genuinely are the greatest part of Alan Wake. So what Barry said does have a nice little bit of interpretation. You are clearly not in the real world. You are trapped in the darkness zone at the bottom of the lake. But why you're going through what you're going through is rather interesting and confusing. That's the intrigue. It's not that this is you escaping or anything. This is you figuring out what the hell is going on. That's why the intro is rather light on story beats, because it's just lots of combat here, there, and everywhere. And look, you even have your standard 2010s turret section. Thanks, video games. Barry continues to taunt you throughout the sections, as well as the live-action Alan Wake on the TV screens. This has you go through a few more neat combat sections, one really cool-looking one where all of the electrical poles look like burnt trees in a forest. It's great stuff. I think the art direction and level design teams kind of melded pretty well in this DLC, which unfortunately doesn't last because it's brought back to a screeching, pun intended, halt when you have to go do a driving combat section against monster trucks. In Alan Wake. Never change, Sam Lake.
Oh yeah, somebody also said like Alan Wake is not his actual name, which I was shocked. Sorry, not Alan Wake. I'm Sam Lake. Sam Lake is not his real name. It's literally translated from Finnish because his last name is just Lake, but in Finnish. And I am a little bit confused as to why he chose to translate it into English. Maybe there was a certain like fear that it will alienate the audience. I've been thinking about it non-stop since that person commented that it's not his real name, wondering why that is.
Two trucks having sex.
For the most part, you still continue on, but gain a few old memories of you and Alice. Just voice clips for the most part until later on, but bringing you back to the older times when things were better and kind of giving you reason to continue. When the voice clips are over, you start to experience one of the better parts of your life. We get some nice photography stuff with Alice and really kind of pushing Alan on. The first special episode comes to a final closure though when we see Among Us bottom text Thomas Zane floating around in your room.
Zane, how do I get out of here?
That's what you face. That's you, even as we speak.
Darkness. Darkness coming! Swept him away. Lost. He knew. He knew! He couldn't hold on. He knew there was no way out. Oh!
No, I'm right here,
What's
Zane.
going wrong?
That's not me. It's just,
Wrong.
I don't know, an echo, a hallucination, the dark presence.
The dark presence is not responsible for this. You are making this happen. You're trapped in your own nightmares. You are fighting yourself.
So, in a somewhat interesting twist, this whole segment, this part of the DLC, is not you fighting off the remains of the dark presence, and it's also not you dealing with anything in the real world. Since the dark place and Cauldron Lake are weirdo fantasy land, anything goes. The part of your brain that wants to give up, panic, and die is what is fighting you. The live action Alan Wake on the TV screens constantly shouting about enemies coming your way is the subconscious part of you wanting to just give in and let yourself die. This episode is a battle of your own mind, which is one reason why these memories are here, to keep yourself going, which is a great point to mention a segue. I talked about how I saw Alan Wake's voice acting as very flat in the original, and people are quick to point out that it is somewhat the point. His VA was supposed to be like that for this character. Now, while we could treat this as Schrodinger's VA, no, it was bad on purpose, it does instead open up a better topic to discuss. A lot of things Alan Wake does are bizarre or sometimes bad by design. It's intentionally different for the sake of the story, and a lot of games do stuff like this. An example that comes to mind is the completely pointless character creator in Metal Gear Solid 5, which actually comes into play in the last hour of the game. You suffer through something completely meaningless to be rewarded in the end. The difficulty is whether or not it lands. That's the test. I know what they're going for, I get the concept, but whether or not it sticks the landing is a separate thing entirely.
That's
Agent
very,
Nightingale is a
very
great
true.
example of one that definitely lands. He's clearly a cliche on the shoot first, questions later cop, so him immediately berating you multiple times and firing on you with civilians in front of you is clearly meant to be comical, and that works for me. He lands. Alan Wake's voice acting, intentional or not, did not work for me, especially because he
Very true, very based, making things bad on purpose. Sometimes it's just a shitty shield from criticism. I'm sorry, I'm not enjoying your product more because some section was really bad. It doesn't work that way. So, but at the same time, yeah, if you have a really cool idea to cash it in later by making the player suffer, sure, it can work. Based Bricky, I think, is right on the money on this one. I will flip my camera and move myself here. Let's go.
to his extremely flat line delivery all the time was aggravating. In this DLC, however, this DLC showed me his voice acting chops are actually pretty fucking stellar. The final boss of this episode
True.
is the Big Mountain think tank scientist.
Fully erect hand penises.
This boss fight absolutely sucks ass. They all do in Alan Wake. All you do is light up the televisions while it chucks poltergeists at you and enemies spawn behind you. It totally sucks. But the entire time, the screaming live action Alan Wake on the TV is throwing out some incredible line delivery.
It burns! It burns! It burns!
Pretty much all of the segments when he's on TV and he's screaming like mad shit at you are goated. He's a really good. He sounds very good in those sections.
What good was it going to do? Why had everyone abandoned him to die?
Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Lodge.
Why is this happening? I made a mistake.
There's no way out. No way out. No way out. I need to get out of here. Get out. No. How do I get out of here?
It's a little jarring to have spent as long as I did listening to normal Alan Wake and then just be dick slapped by a performance like that. Intentional or not for the main narration, I can't help but think that it was a bad call to have him so monotone when you had talent this strong
It was.
the entire time.
It was
That
a
ends
bad
our
call.
episode. If anything, it's more of a setup for the second episode, as most of this is just more gameplay while you're figuring out what's going on. But still, I can't get over how good Matthew Peretta is. It's like it was a hidden secret and I wasn't allowed to know until now. All right, that's episode 1. Let's hit episode 2.
You have to look within yourself to save yourself from your other self. Only then will your true self reveal itself.
I actually have a lot.
Avatar The Last Airbender is dangerously based. It's so fucking based for a essentially what is like a cartoon aimed at younger demographics. It's just goated with the sauce.
Less to say on episode 2 for the majority of its runtime. What you get more than anything else, though, is a lot more Barry, and that's fantastic. He really kind of just spitballs and shit talks you for the most part, but in his classic Barry way.
So, you really are nuts, huh? Let's face it, we always knew this was coming. Nah, that was a crutch, you know? Hey, you're moving up in the world, buddy.
It's gone! Much like in episode 5 in the base game, we now understand the objective, so there isn't a whole lot of intrigue going on right now, especially because
the fucking shitty platforming sections were really bad. Visually, they were cool and very imaginative. Gameplay-wise, they were so bad, man. They were so shit.
Isn't any mystery in this second half. You get a scuffed version of the Children of the Elder Gods concert.
Hell yeah! Remember this out?
A bunch of wacky platforming involving the words you need to illuminate. Platforming probably is the wrong word. Alan has the jump height of a slug, so it isn't great. I did mention that the art direction and gameplay teams were really on point in the first part of the DLC, and that does continue with this one. There are a ton of environmental objects that you can use at your disposal, including rolling explosive barrels. What's roll mean? That's about right. That's about right. Fireworks, all kinds of stuff. A particularly neat section is when you are in a hamster wheel version of your own home and other areas of your journey. In order to escape the big wheel, you have to wait for gravity to move objects out of the way, and it's unique. The part's a little slow and you have to wait more than I'd like, but again, it does feel like there was a bit more creativity going on in these episodes, and it should be applauded for that.
This part was so fucking cool, man. I wish more of Alan Wake was this dreamy nightmare sequence things like that.
The majority of the second third of this episode is reinforcing the point we already know. Thomas Zane explains a little bit about how you are the rational Alan Wake fighting against the one that wants to give up and die. A bit of back and forth on the logistics of that, and if you can even call it the logistics.
I am not the author of your story.
How can you say that when you wrote that page about me and the clicker? It wasn't one of my pages. You directed me to it. You had Weaver guard it.
Yes, she was needed. And you needed to click her. But I'm not.
What?
But after going through a pretty extended sequence, we get to be reunited with the worst character out there.
Since we're being so frank here, Alan, and let me just reiterate how happy I am that you've had this breakthrough, I would like to summarize your condition.
By all means.
And please, just let me know if you think I'm being unfair.
All right.
Now, I made a mistake about Dr. Hartman in the base game video. I had assumed he was using their works for money, but he was actually using it because he was aware of the darkness and wanted the power from their works of fiction, which I assumed he would probably use to get money, but I misspoke. Luckily here, it's more of an expositional dialogue bit. Obviously, Hartman isn't around anymore since he got sent to the Shadow Realm, and so this exchange with the creepy TV Alan and Hartman is disquieting in both how it's framed and how real it feels. Going into all the past mistakes Alan has made, including substance abuse, his own personal trauma, and his methods of coping with it. And even Alice chimes in.
The only thing that keeps me from killing myself is the hope that I'll never see you again.
Damn.
Ouch.
That's
Ouch is right.
Yeah, that's
Jesus
that's,
Christ, Alice. Clearly this
too
is
real.
Alan's self-destruction at play again, hence why it's TV Alan there. But it helps illustrate how he feels about himself. You know, the deeper darker things that we sometimes think about with no
Deep,
basis to
dark.
do so. You know, those that struggle with self-destruction and depression, assuming the world would be better without them, even though the rational part of their brain knows it's not true. You know, as we've talked about before, the darkness is mainly metaphorical to Alan. The sequence is really good here. It's well lit, it's framed well, the dialogue is good, and it, you know, strikes pretty home for certain individuals. But speaking of metaphors, oh man, the ending of this episode is, I mean, it's something.
Al, what I'm saying is the only way you're getting in that cabin is through me. It's one of those kill your darlings things. But hell, you're used to that, big shot writer. Am I right?
I'm very glad this is imaginary Barry. If I had to kill the real Barry, I would have dropped this game from a 6 out of 10 to like a 3. But luckily, it's metaphor Barry. So the final boss fight is actually killing a lot of the characters we met throughout the story just as a taken form. I can't tell if it's better or worse than the TV boss fight. The TV one sucks, but at least it's interactive. Here we fight Hartman, the Anderson brothers, and Barry. But Hartman and the brothers are that stupid wave dashing enemy variant where you just flat out can't interact with them for periods of time. So you flash them and wait for them to finish their goddamn CRTV melee wave dashing just to flash them again and have them keep doing it. And this happens like 5 times before you can finally put them in the dirt. It just blows. Ironically, Barry doesn't do that, but he has a 3-stage fight that takes the largest amount of light and ammo out of any enemy in the game. Now, metaphorically, we're taking the brain pretentious route. We can determine this is because he is the closest friend Alan has, and mentally it's difficult to, you know, banish Barry. But personally, to me, I like to think of it as Barry being the strongest possible fucking entity in the entire game. Based on the damage he can take, there is no other enemy in the entirety of Alan Wake that takes as much light and ammo as Barry does. He is truly the strongest enemy in the entire game.
Let's face it, Barry could solo the Dark Place easily. It's just Alan Wake struggling, you know, being a little bitch. Barry would solo the Dark Presence, and then he would be back to making like slop writers like Alan Wake fucking rock stars, and then like chilling at home, giving himself up to his hobbies. It's just you know, it would be too simple of a story if Barry did everything for you. So we had this like schmuck of a writer, Alan Fraud, battling with his fraudness, you know.
Game, which only
because otherwise there would be no conflict.
Your ass the entire fight.
Here we go. I'm earning a
15% commission.
I have several
4 years on
speed dial just because I never know when you
get in trouble again.
You know what kind of people need that?
And assholes.
And you're
Not again.
they make all the time. Hey, when you threw a hissy fit, I didn't know when your
Ego
couldn't take it, and because of that, you
almost got me killed a dozen times over.
BFF, Al!
BFF!
I'm going to be genuinely upset if I do not get a Barry cameo in Alan Wake 2 or Control. Genuinely. I don't care how good those 2 games are, they go down a single point if there is not a Barry cameo. Even dialogue, I don't care. Once you complete the boss fight, you re-enter the lodge and push aside the part of you that wants to destroy yourself and begin writing again. But you begin writing a new novel to help you escape, titled
A Sequel to Departure.
Return.
My name is Alan Wake, and I'm a writer.
Alan Wake is such a fucking hack. He's such a hack.
No fucking way! No, I didn't know that! I didn't know it was called Return! His name is Alan Wake, and he's a writer. Didn't know that. That's the end of this.
And he's a hack of a writer.
DLC. I think it's a really good package. The voice acting is definitely better in a lot of ways, more Barry, my beloved, and the gameplay teams were working a bit better. The boss fights are still pretty ass, but the creativity at work for the levels was definitely higher. That is the last we will see of Alan Wake.
He didn't talk about the cool, like, lighthouse sections. Oh man, that's fucking disappointing. The lighthouse sections was really fucking sick.
for around 9 whole years before he has his appearance in Control in a DLC or something, I believe. I don't know yet, haven't played it. There are no other games that have come out between 2010 and 2019. None. No other titles. Don't look at the video's runtime. I'll see you in Control.
This game is so overhated.
I gotta leave. Okay.
John, we just started.
This game is so overhated. This game is so overhated. This game is so overhated. I will never fucking accept the reality that it might be bad because it's okay.
Come on, man. We
Listen, there's a lot to see in this life. Not wasting it here.
Remember, like earlier in the video when I said, I know what their intentions were, but it's all about if it lands or not. Alan Wake's American Nightmare is a side project made by Remedy and published by Microsoft. It was released in February 22nd of 2012, and it was a little title developed for that whole Microsoft Arcade piece of shit thing they did back when. Basically, smaller budget teams, smaller games, smaller prices. Castle Crashers and things like that were some of those games. So I'll admit, I did come into this a bit wrong. I didn't expect a real sequel. Now, I knew it was smaller, shorter spin-off style game, but wow.
It's important to say this game went for $15 fucking when it released. That's quarter of a price of a AAA video game. And now it's going for literally a fucking $1 on sales and such. For that price, it's good. For that price, it's fucking good.
I saw very positive on the Steam reviews, and I am shocked the nostalgia has absolutely obliterated the eyeballs of these people.
Fuck you, I played this in 2023, Bricky. I'm gonna go nuclear. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be fucking bad.
This game is terrible. It's absolutely dog shit. There are two tiny saving graces about this entire experience, but as I said before, whether it lands or not, it doesn't matter. I don't care that it's $10. I don't care that it's smaller scale. I do not care. It is still bad.
Listen to me. Fucking listen to me. It's cheap. It's cheap and it's very short. It's very, very short. So if you go through the campaign once, it's so short, but it's still a nice enough time. I don't get the hate. I really don't get the hate.
Two things it has going for it: the combat and Mr. Scratch. So,
yes.
Alan Wake is in Night Springs, which, if you remember, was the little Twilight Zone spinoff in the original game. Alan is investigating a signal, and by putting together this signal, it will allow him to defeat Mr. Scratch, who you may remember being mentioned for half a second in the ending of the base game. The overarching story plot here, or at least what can be gathered, is that Alan tried to write his way out of the dark place, and in doing so has released Mr. Scratch upon the real world. And now he needs to write himself back in so he can stop Mr. Scratch. This has Alan travel to a motel, a giant telescope, and a drive-in theater, all the while fighting off the usual enemies. During each area, there will be a radio and a television that you can interact with. The radio has a broadcast that even has Barry, my beloved, showing that he actually got back on his feet and acts as the agent of the Anderson brothers, which is just
yes,
so lovely to hear. Genuinely happy about that. The TVs are psychopathic footage of Mr. Scratch doing and saying horrible things. It's a bit Patrick Bateman, a bit of that Joker found footage video in The Dark Knight, and a lot of Mr. Blonde from Reservoir Dogs.
Yes.
Yeah! Did you see that?
This is one.
How can you not like this setup? Come on,
One
man.
of those two good things I can say about the game. Mr. Scratch is very enjoyable to watch.
Yes.
There's a bit of charm to him. The interesting way they dub over the Finnish actor's mouth is kind of funny. And overall, he's just a silly little guy. He's just so silly. Look, he does a dance.
This is worth the price of admission alone, man. Just watching Mr. Scratch do silly things on the TVs.
The second decent part of this game is that the gameplay is relatively a bit better. I go from calling it bad to serviceable at this point. The main reason is because Alan can actually sprint for a very solid distance, and the weapon variety is higher, and the enemy variety is also higher. There's crows that turn into dudes and big chainsaw,
which is way better than regular crows from Alan Wake 1.
People, giant spiders. There's actually a bit of decent variety. I still wouldn't call it good, but you know, serviceable. And that's where the praise ends. Pretty much everything else about this game is boring, terrible, or downright strange. Each area has a character you talk to, and like they're voice acted, technically. By definition, they are voice acted.
What's this all about? There are these
Okay,
really
that's
creepy
fair.
guys hanging around the oil derricks. There's something really weird about them.
There's a strange astronomical event happening right now. Something I can't begin to classify. But I think it's disabled our satellite.
These are the only other characters in the entire game. 3 of them, all of them pretty bad. Unfortunately, they are the only people you really interact with outside of Mr. Scratch hurling insults at you. This is compounded by the amount of busy work you have to do. The final section has you running around getting a bunch of random shit, which makes sense why the sprint is so much longer now, because you're going to do it a lot more. You just go from spot to spot to spot, grabbing shit and doing busy work. Then, once you do, you then do something that barely counts as a puzzle. Get a genuinely confusing rock song as a satellite crashes into an oil tower and you run away like an action film Call of Duty section to then find keys off a dead man's body in the motel and then drive away to the telescope building. Like, the song with the satellite it's a good song, but it's so random. Why are they playing that? Then, at the telescope building, you do more busy work, going up and down to the scientist lady, getting her shit. And as I said already, you're gonna do a lot of it. There's a lot of running. Thank God you can sprint longer. Then when you get her stuff in between the enemy encounters, you then go drive to the motel or the drive-in theater thing, and you get this interaction.
Are you okay?
Go away. No, I want you. But you'll get angry if you're here. So you gotta go. You know I'll do what you want.
I mean, what the fuck was that?
But it's locked.
Where's the key? Just so that I know to avoid it.
It's on the wall next to the cash register. But you can't. You can't. Don't be bad.
Hey, no problem. I'm just gonna go do some other stuff.
Then you go do some power stuff with a bunch more combat, and then you fight a bunch of giant metal rods out of the ground, which is apparently your boss fight. Then solve what isn't really a puzzle, but more of a list of instructions to then send you back to the first area again, because this is a loop game. Get used to it. Enjoy Rock Song Satellite 3 goddamn times. I genuinely cannot believe this game has a positive rating on Steam. I have to assume that it's the 10.
Okay, time to start being overly skeptical of Bricky in this video. First of all, I don't know, I will obviously go through the rest of it, but I will say my piece now. First of all, he did not mention the areas you go through in Alan Wake American Nightmare fucking slap compared to Alan's Wake 1. The desert little motel, the observatory, and the drive-in theater have so much fucking character, and they are so like pleasant to walk around and fight around and they are more of an open space. They beat the fuck out of every single location you ever saw in Alan Wake 1. I think it's disingenuous to not bring attention to that. That's first. Second of all, you do loop 3 times. Each location you do 3 times, right? Except Alan is aware of the loop, and as you go through the loops, he starts essentially speedrunning the objectives, so each loop is significantly shorter, to the point where 1.5 hours of it is the first loop, and then like the last half hour will be your last three objectives, so each each of the final areas pretty much, because Alan does such a fucking incredible speedrun, and this is cool. It's cool that Alan starts utilizing the fact that he's stuck in a time loop to his advantage. I find that narrative so compelling. Because usually stories about time travel and time loop don't turn out like this, where the protagonist starts using it to their advantage. Like, it's dishonest to say that you go through this game 3 times, because you fucking don't. Because the playtime of the 2 second attempts combined is lower than the first time you are going through. That's not... If Bricky doesn't clarify this, then I'm gonna call this fucking bullshit on his part.
$1 price tag nostalgia from 2012. There is a saving grace to it all, and that is the fact that each time you do the loop, the individuals that you're talking to help you out, and it just do something for you first, so it's not so much of a pain in the ass. The last loop is incredibly fast, but it's so anemic and confusing. Like, Remedy is hired to make a game that's short and low budget. Why did they make it an Alan Wake game? Why did they think that Alan Wake was the right IP for this? Or Microsoft for that case? I mean, they had Max Payne, right? Or did
Okay, that's fair, but they didn't have Max Payne, I think, at this point. Rockstar had Max Payne at this point.
Rockstar by that point. I don't remember. Were they excited to cash in on the metaphorical action suspense mystery thriller name that was Alan Wake, which I don't remember selling or being particularly special at the time? Okay, let me tell you a story. I made a video back when it was fun should triumph before balance does, or something like that. Video did fine. Its views aren't the important part. What's important was the advertisement. It's a Best Buy laptop. This was a notoriously poor sponsorship to deal with. Not to get in the weeds here, but most sponsors want their ads done a few days before a video goes live so they can approve it and send it back for changes, which I will, then make. This video has a factor ad on it. This exact same thing happened. Best Buy, or the agency they hired, were excruciating to deal with, expecting the entire video done 2 weeks in advance so they could watch through the entire thing for anything that was not brand safe, and they were quite irritated with me when I didn't make their insane deadlines. Not to mention, the ad was overly long, almost 2 minutes, because they wanted me to talk about too much stuff, and because I needed to do a video right now, I shit out a script in what ended up being a, in my opinion, very mediocre video, which naturally was the one Asmongold decided to react to.
On your device that you can see on screen now.
Oh, they gave me the sticker, but I put it on my refrigerator.
Why didn't you just fast forward past the ad, man? Just skip it. It's fine. I would do the same. What I'm trying to say,
I would never skip your ad, Bricky, no matter how shit it is
that while it's a rarity, sometimes a video's quality can be a bit rushed or poor because of a deadline I need to reach. It would be nice for me to be the perfect soul YouTuber and I'm all there for just the content, but this is a job like any other. There are deadlines, and sometimes deadlines rush projects. I kind of felt like this is what happened here. Remedy is hot off Alan Wake 1, and it did not sell particularly well. Microsoft gave them some money for their next game, but it had to be this Xbox arcade style, and it needed to meet certain requirements and time frames. This was 2012, the same year as things like Black Ops 2, Mass Effect 3, Borderlands 2, and Far Cry 3. Now, looking at this game clearly shows it was behind the times even back then, and the tiny budget and time frame they probably had confirms it. Even their classic Remedy thing, the action scene set to a rock song, is present here, but there's zero setup. On the third loop at the telescope, they just play music when you fight. That's it. There's no stage, no radio.
I kind of forgot about that.
Nothing. They just add the music randomly. It's jarring, sloppy, and clearly not what they wanted to have released, which brings us back to that whole thing about intentions and landing. Comparing this game to the 4 I just said, Mass Effect, Borderlands, etc., is unfair. absolutely, no doubt. I sympathize with the issues in this game's development, but it's still a pile of shit. Even back then, there were a plethora of titles that were similarly costed to this game and were far better, because at the end of the day, it's a price for the consumer kind of deal. This game needs to be evaluated at the $10 to $20 range that it was back then. And even in that range, I hate it. I told myself
you're fucking insane. I'm sorry, Bricky. That's such a bad fucking take. Oh my god.
Play all the games in the Remedy verse. Now that initially included Quantum Break, but we're gonna have to skip that for now unless you just really want to watch a Quantum Break video, then maybe I'll make it in the future. Alan Wake's American Nightmare is not worth the money. It's not worth the time. And honestly, if you just watched Mr. Scratch,
that's a delusional take. That's just a delusional take. I am so
basically
sorry.
everything you wanted out of this title. Do not buy it. It is bad. This very and mostly positive rating I see on Steam, it is a liar. It is a cheat. It is a charlatan. It shall not be trusted. It must go to jail. But with that said, I am told it's luckily not that important in the grand narrative. It serves to introduce you to Mr. Scratch, and that's about it, which may or may not come up in Control and Alan Wake 2. I assume he might, because if he's important, then, you know, that whole thing, but I don't know yet. I haven't played either title. Our next video in the Remedyverse is going to be Control. Whether I split that up into the base game and DLCs remains to be seen. People have hyped this game up for such a long time now, and they say it is one of their, some people say it's one of their favorites, with a few lows, but some insanely high highs. So I'm very excited to see what this kind of new IP by Remedy is. And once Control is over, we got Alan Wake 2. And we'll see how that goes. Thank you everyone for watching this video. You want to buy some merch, orchidate.com. It's right down there in the description. A Brickle tee or hoodie is available. They are very, very comfy. And I'm even wearing our sweatpants right now, which are also extremely comfy. Thank you so much. And I'll see you for Control. Come on.
Okay. Let's digest this. Let's digest this thing. Bricky is so incredibly fucking wrong about Alan Wake American Nightmare. I am seething. I am literally seething in my chair, man. He did not talk once. He did not once say that the incredibly fucking annoying enemies in Alan Wake 1, right? The ones that throw the axe, they are no more. There is one ranged enemy and they balanced him so perfectly. So in Alan Wake 1, there were those stupid fucking enemies that threw the axe from across the goddamn map. They always they homed in on you, they always hit you unless you did dodge last second. That was such a bad idea for an enemy. I'm shocked it made it into the fucking final version of the game. Somebody was drinking stupid juice like in copious amounts when they were making Alan Wake 1. Gameplay specifically. So in Alan Wake American Nightmare, they removed those completely. The crows, very universally fucking hated enemy from Alan Wake 1 because they would fly away from you and they were very annoying. They changed into a dude that like the crows fly in, they form into a dude and he has basically no light protection. You just kinda shoot him after shining a little bit. It's better. It's not that much better because they still fly away and you have to wait for them and he will always spawn behind you. But the ranged enemy is fucking amazing. He throws a grenade of darkness. You can see it roll on the floor. You can move away from it. It has friendly fire, so it can be used to take out other Taken. And you can counter it with a flare or a flashbang. It will make the grenade go away. That's incredible. That is so interactive. If Alan Wake 1 had such like deeply thought out combat, it would have been 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, whatever. Bricky bitched about this axe throwing enemy for so fucking long in his Alan Wake 1 review, and now he doesn't say a word when they literally fixed it? Come on, man, I get it. Alan Wake American Nightmare doesn't move the story forward. There are some cool notes you find about Barry spending time with the Anderson brothers. There are some cool notes about like what has been happening in the real world, about what Alan's wife has been doing. Other characters, where they have been, you find that in manuscripts in this game. The Mr. Scratch is entertaining. Overall, the story doesn't matter. It's just Mr. Scratch is fucking with you. And when you think you have broken out of the dark place, he pulls a twist on you. Oh, you know, things don't pan out that way. In Night Springs. And then the game ends. Sure, this doesn't move the story forward. But it evolves the Alan Wake combat formula so much. If they didn't utilize ideas from Alan Wake's American Nightmare in Alan Wake's 2 combat, I will be so disappointed because they had some incredible gameplay ideas. The other thing that is that he didn't talk about is the arcade mode. It's basically wave defense, and it's one of those things that was just attached to inflate the possible hours you can put into this little piece of content, you know. It's not great, it's quite bad, I would say. It's not bad, it's passable. But nobody who's sound of mind will come to Alan Wake for fucking wave defense and combat oriented gameplay. This is not Call of Duty Zombies, it will never be Call of Duty Zombies. But I had some fun doing achievements and whatever. I wouldn't call it like wasted time. And like I said, for $15, this is quite quality. Not every game in the series needs to progress the story forward, especially if it's little like DLC sized side romp. I think they did incredible things with gameplay, and I will be disappointed if those evolutions are not there in Alan Wake 2. And I find Bricky's review of this DLC incredibly infuriating for reasons stated before. And yeah, I think American Nightmare is overhated as all hell. I am gonna die on this hill. I will stand tall with my fucking broken shield and my yee-ass haircut, and I will bleed to death on this hill. Doesn't matter who comes for me, I will always defend this opinion that Alan Wake American Nightmare is overhated. But other than that, great video as always. Bricky is very handsome. I just had to go nuclear on him for being wrong. Completely wrong. Objectively wrong. It's just a silly like rant. Don't take this too seriously. I think he has been more than incredibly fair with the DLCs, though. One of my friends thinks the DLCs to Alan Wake are worse than the base game. I think the DLCs had some ideas that were better. The boss fights suck, and all boss fights suck. The American Nightmare also. It's less painful than boss fights in Alan Wake. Also, they removed the wave dashing enemy, another thing that Bricky hated even in this video. He hated on at length about the wave dashing enemy. He's no longer there in American Nightmare. No mention of that, of course, because whatever, man. Like, it just sits wrong with me that Alan Wake 1 gets the score lowered to 6 out of 10 because of gameplay, but Alan Wake's American Nightmare doesn't get more points because of better gameplay. How does that work? Like, where's the integrity? Come on. I love you, Bricky. Rant over, and for those of you watching later on YouTube, the video is also over. Thank you very much for joining me. Join me on my live streams if you want. They are always scheduled like at least a day before.